So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the second episode of our webinar series on the topic of cross-jurisdiction collaboration, hosted in partnership with Alberta Health Services. Just a quick overview of what we have planned today. The Wellness Fund will present on what collaboration is, why it is important, how comprehensive school health has evolved in Alberta, followed by more information on collaboration and comprehensive school health by AHS. At the end, there will be a short evaluation. I will now take this opportunity to introduce the Alberta Healthy School Community Wellness Fund, which operates out of the Centre for Healthy Communities at the School of Public Health at the University of Alberta. We have Colleen Wright and myself, Jasmine Bonazzoni. Just a note that this webinar will be available on our website shortly following the end of the presentation. We now want to know who else is in the room. You'll see a poll available. If you could please make a selection from the available options. And I'll just give you a couple seconds here. All right, so 5 more seconds. I believe we almost have everybody. All right, so I'm going to close that poll. So it looks like 69.2% are external partners. We have 23% members of central office team and 7% site wellness champions. All right, I will now hand it over to Colleen, who will present the next portion.
Good afternoon, everyone. So there has been a lot of talk about cross-jurisdiction collaboration this year. But really, what is it? Collaborative practices is a term used by Alberta Education to describe many different activities that support a culture in which children and youth are equipped to overcome challenges and experience success in school. The success is apparent when schools, school authorities, and their partners work together to provide supports and services in a way that is timely, culturally sensitive, and responsive. So why is collaboration important? Collaboration strengthens the relationships among members of the school community and allows staff to improve educational outcomes and find innovative solutions to problems. Working together supports a school community in which children and youth are prepared to overcome challenges and experience success in school. Quick review of comprehensive school health. It is an internationally approved framework which is utilized by the jurisdictions that we work with to support their wellness initiatives and the cross-jurisdiction collaborations. If we look at the timeline of our grants, you can see in the first few years that grants were considered to be large and small, and there really was no distinguishing difference between a district or a school level grant. Then in 2011, the Government of Alberta provided a specific amount of funding that was directed towards grants that specifically looked at what we classified healthy relationships. Since that time, you can see that we've continually offered a variety of grants at different times, depending on what we were hearing from the projects as areas of need or of interest. Our current grants, which run until June 2019, have included the opportunity for cross-jurisdiction collaboration to be part of their initiatives. Currently, we are working with 57 school jurisdictions and authorities, and based on the themes that we identified through the project's action plans, collaboration was a central focus for many jurisdictions, being tied in together with other main themes such as family engagement, jurisdiction wellness committees, and staff wellness. Currently, 68% of the jurisdictions we are working with are collaborating with another jurisdiction. The Tamarack Institute defines collaboration as a continuum of different collaborative approaches. As groups move along the continuum, they must pay attention to activities that build trust amongst the partners. Collective impact efforts exist within the stages of the collaboration continuum that include coordination of efforts, collaboration amongst partners, and the integration of services and programs. Jurisdictions that are collaborating have reported to us that they are using their funds to support meeting costs, travel expenses, release times. Others are coordinating to share PD events, and some are even collaborating at a zone level. We now have a second poll asking the question, have you been part of a cross-jurisdiction collaboration in the past? Please just select the yes or no, and we'll give you about 10 seconds or so to fill that out. Is that good? And close it.
I'd say 5 more seconds.
5 more. So there we go. So 66.6 have been involved in cross-jurisdiction collaboration in the past, and 33.3 have not been. So now we would like to hand it over to our wonderful partners from Alberta Health Services, Ellen Pearce and Lorna Muise. And we have, there we are.
Thanks, Colleen. Like Colleen said, my name's Ellen Pearce. I'm based in Calgary, and I work to support a team of staff who work across the province. We work with school authorities and help provide consistent evidence-informed school health promotion strategies, so working to support that comprehensive school health approach. With Lorna's team that operates in the central area of the province, we're able to provide consistent support to all the school authorities in the province related to school health. So I'll let Lorna do a quick introduction as well.
Hi everyone, as Ellen said, my name is Lorna Muise. I'm the team lead for the School Health Promotion team with Alberta Health Services in the Central Zone. I work out of Red Deer. Today's presentation will give a general sense of what our collective teams do to support health and wellness promotion in schools and jurisdictions. We will share examples and stories of how we've been involved in and support efforts that span multiple school authorities, and I'm excited to see we've got lots of people with experience on the line who've done some work, so hopefully we will have an opportunity to open the floor for some additional sharing beyond what Ellen and I have to share.
So we'll start first with a little bit of broad information about Alberta Health Services and the support we offer to schools and schools authorities. So we are the provincial health authority in the province, and we endorse and use the comprehensive school health framework as our main approach when working with schools and communities and supporting student success, both in terms of health and education outcomes. Our organization is diverse, and so the programs and services we offer span the life cycle and range from health promotion all the way through treatment and kind of health service delivery. So when it comes to school health, there are lots of different types of staff who are working in schools. You can see a range of them up on this slide here. Lorna and I will be speaking primarily about the role of health promotion facilitators who support school authorities with comprehensive school health, and also our teams also play a key role in navigating the range of other supports that are available from Alberta Health Services. So within our 2 program areas, we do have a designated health promotion facilitator assigned to support each school authority in the province with a specific focus on comprehensive school health framework. We also provide support to First Nations communities and kind of other schools that aren't part of the traditional public and Catholic boards as well. So within this work, cross-district collaboration is becoming more and more important as we've seen lots of growth in comprehensive school health over the years. I think definitely the funding from the Alberta Healthy School Community Wellness Fund is helping this year, but even prior to that, we've seen growth. Within our team, we collect internal data that on kind of the number of school authorities in the province who are working on cross-district initiatives. So between 2013 and 2017, we've seen that number jump from 51% to 75%. So I'm sure even, I know Colleen showed some numbers as well about the grant-funded districts, but I think it'll even grow with the funding that's added this year. So exciting to see that work happening.
So on the screen in front of you, just that there's a map that outlines where our health promotion facilitators are physically located in the province. We do our best to make ensure that our staff are accessible and available to all school authorities, and we strive to locate our positions in close proximity to the school authority offices. So if you don't know who your health promotion facilitator is, we're going to offer our contact information at the conclusion of the session so that you can jot that down and send us a line, and we're happy to make sure you're connected to the right person. In the past school year, we had working relationships with 95% of public, Catholic, and Francophone school districts in the province. We've also initiated some relationships with a number of Indigenous schools and school authorities in the province. And upon request, we're able to reach out and support any of the private schools that are in the province. So while the work we do is based on the needs of the districts we support, it does vary, but we do have some common threads that are outlined here on the slide, and I'm just going to share a bit more information on them. So our staff can provide guidance on completing school health assessments, such as the Healthy School Planner tool that's offered by the Joint Consortium for School Health, or we can support using existing data to inform priority setting at a jurisdictional level. I know a couple of our school districts have been looking at staff wellness surveys, and so we've been looking at those results along with our education partners to just look at what kind of strategies are going to be most meaningful for their staff. So in addition to that, we can help design the engagement methods that you use, the questions that you design. We can facilitate or support the facilitation of consensus building workshops. We've supported brainstorming sessions and provide links to relevant health data. Although we generally don't support these efforts at a school level, we can do some work to mentor and support a group of health champions through a large group conversation to help them build strategies for their schools. Second, once the priorities are established, we can help identify strategies and actions that are evidence-informed and have demonstrated success in practice. Third, around policy development and implementation, research shows that having standard policies and regulations that support student wellness are important to sustaining this type of work. So our teams can provide guidance on health-related aspects of policies and regulations, as well as how wellness might be embedded into strategic planning documents and educational plans. Fourth, 85% of school districts that we work with have a formalized health champion network with representatives from multiple and sometimes all schools in a division. We're happy to support these groups as they provide a forum for sharing and collaboration across jurisdictions and a great way to ensure that jurisdiction actions reflect the needs of each school community. The fifth thing that we do that's a common thread is that we provide professional learning and capacity building as core conditions for implementation of comprehensive school health. We support these efforts, and we know that they're an important part of the work that is done. We work closely with our education and other health partners that Ellen outlined to support and facilitate relevant professional learning opportunities at places such as Teachers Convention and other educational conference on topics related to a wide variety of things, including comprehensive school health, mental health, active living, healthy eating, and other topics. Last week I was at the Central Alberta Teachers Convention, and we supported colleagues that led sessions on teaching sexual health, cannabis, and vaping, while my colleague Jackie and I hosted a session titled Building Intentional Connections. Of course, we also work directly with school jurisdictions to offer tailor-made sessions as part of professional learning or professional development days. We know that a vast number of Alberta Health Service programs and supports are available to schools, so we can also play a navigator role. Because our team members are not topic experts on everything health and wellness, we can help you navigate our system and get you to the right supports and the right people who have that knowledge and expertise. We can also help with identifying relevant funding and grant opportunities to support you in writing those grant applications. Finally, and I think it's my favorite part, is that we are connectors, that we connect you to best and promising practices. We strive to build bridges to resources, ideas, and people. For example, I was recently at the East Central Teachers Convention, And we did the session building intentional connections with a group of teachers and administrators and pulled out some really great ideas. And within a week, we were able to take them back and share them with some other districts and some other administrators and build bridges between people as far away as between Vermilion and Lacombe to just bridge some ideas and some promising practices. I'll turn it back to Ellen now, who's going to get to the real meat of the presentation, where we get to talk about what it looks like in terms of supporting cross-jurisdictional collaboration.
Thanks, Lorna. So yeah, in this next part of the presentation, we'll talk a bit more about what that cross-district collaboration actually looks like. Before I start on this slide, I just want to note too that you know, lots of people on the line have been part of cross-district collaboration, and what we're presenting here is just of some examples. So it doesn't represent everything that's happening in the province, and I'm sure there's a lot of expertise in the room, and we will have a bit of an opportunity later to build on the examples that we're sharing. So the first type of collaboration that I wanted to share is the example of regional school health teams. So I know many of you, I can see names on the line, will be familiar with these groups. They do exist in most areas of the province in some format, though that it does look a little bit different. But in general, they're committees or networks that meet on a regular basis for a variety of purposes. So sharing, networking to learn more about emerging hot topics. So sometimes there's a professional learning element. And then just to discuss current efforts to support healthy schools in the region. So they serve as a platform for knowledge exchange and just identifying opportunities for more in-depth collaboration on projects and events, that kind of thing, other initiatives that are happening. I'm just seeing, hopefully this slide, okay, there, I can see the slide again. Some of the groups have existed for quite a long time. I know in Calgary, the Health Promoting Schools Collaborative, I think, has existed for over 20 years, and some of the others have existed close to that as well. The memberships and purposes have evolved over time, but I think what we know from the continued existence is that there is some value in bringing together members from different school authorities to explore their shared interests. So I've got a few examples of the regional teams that do exist shown on the slide. I know there are some other networks that are starting to form in other areas of the province, maybe not as formalized. So these are a few examples that we're aware of. Health Promoting Schools Collaborative in the Calgary area, Moving and Choosing in Medicine Hat area, Healthy Schools Collaborative is in Fort McMurray area, and then the Zone 2, 3, 4, and South Zone regional teams in those areas of the province. There's also a provincial network that connects these different regional teams. That's called the Alberta School Health Regional Teams Collaborative. It's a bit of a mouthful. I currently chair this group, and it does bring together usually the co-chairs or the leads of the regional teams. We meet on an annual basis just to share what the regional work has looked like for the teams and learn from one another. It's also a network for sharing information and learning opportunities like these webinars, and also a good place to get kind of feedback about what are the hot topics that are happening in school districts. And I know we've been able to work with Colleen and Jasmine about suggesting some topics for these webinars through the conversations we have at that provincial table. So if you do want to learn a bit more about the regional school health team or network in your area, definitely feel free to connect and we can put you in touch with the right person or people. And building on kind of the, I guess, overview of regional school health teams, Lorna is going to give a bit of a glance of what this has looked like in Zone 4 and the work she's been involved in with that particular regional school health team.
Thanks, Ellen. So the work of the regional school health teams was actually introduced in about 2008 by the Alberta Coalition for Healthy School Communities. So this is the same group that initiated the formation of the Wellness Fund. So it was a group of people that were trying to catalyze some activities, and I'm so grateful that one of the successful ones that came about was the Wellness Fund. Also grateful that these regional teams were formed because I think they've been the starting point of some interesting collaborations. So we were approached in 2008, and as were all zones in the province, I believe they were pulling together school authorities, some trustees, some senior leaders from CAS, to conversations and just trying to spark the idea of bringing groups together in regional teams across the province. In our zone, most of our partners were a little reticent to form a partnership. We had conversations that were taking place. We were connecting bridges as we could through our team, and so just the need wasn't really predominantly expressed. So in 2012, I had a trustee from Red Deer Catholic Regional Schools approached me and she said, you know what, we really should try doing this. So Diane and I worked together to host the first conversation, and we were excited to have all the districts that were aligned in Zone 4 came to the table for a conversation, a full day conversation at Red Deer Catholic School District offices. We've gathered every year since then. So this year marks our 8th annual gathering, and it's been interesting to see what's happened. So I remember at the 2012 meeting, we again said, hey, do we need a team? And the group said no. But a couple of years later, we kept pushing that concept. Diane and I pushed it, and we ended up getting Brian Shelley, who was then superintendent of Wild Rose School Division, to join us, along with a medical officer of health. So we've had a formal team together for about 5 years, and this past year we expanded our membership to go beyond a CAS representative, an ASBA representative, myself, a medical officer of health, and now we also have a wellness lead, because many of the districts we support, we have wellness leaders. So we have a wellness lead who has joined that conversation group. And I saw Ian. I just have to give a shout out because Ian, along with someone else by the name of Colin Dillon, were the first 2 people on the call at 11:30 this morning. They beat me. So just wanted to give a shout out to those 2 gentlemen for being early today. But Ian is our jurisdiction wellness lead who has joined our zone conversation, our zone committee. In 2016, we opened up the conversation. So Diane and I had been foundational in planning the Zone 4 conversation in the spring. In 2016, we said, let's get a better planning group together. More minds are going to create better synergy. So we opened it up, and we had a trustee, we had another assistant superintendent, a couple of assistant superintendents join us. And what happened was really cool, is because through those conversations, we were able to bring in Dr. Jody Carrington before she went really big and her prices went up. We got her at her introductory rate for 2 years, and she spoke to a larger group of professionals in 2016, 2017 in the morning portion of our sharing event, and then we had our smaller sharing conversation with the district wellness teams. This past fall, we explored a new way of connecting, and Ellen had mentioned the Calgary Health Promotion Collaborative. We've been hearing about that group for a while and how often and frequently they get together, and so we thought, why don't we try a virtual conversation? Because our zone, we now have representatives from as far east as Wainwright, as far west as Rocky Mountain House. We're hoping to get representation from the Bighorn Reserve area, but we also go from Wetaskiwin down to Prairie Land. And so we thought, rather than bringing people only in for that spring conversation, why don't we have a virtual conversation? And so we did that in November, and we were just thrilled to have 8 of 12 jurisdictions that we support come together for just 2 hours of sharing. And I see that Brian's name is on the list of representatives, and I think that's Brian Medill with Red Deer Public. When he became the wellness lead in Red Deer Public this fall, just a huge learning curve, but what we were able to do for him and other colleagues in the zone was to open up some channels of communication, so these people who are doing this wellness lead role as a single person in the district have a group of like-minded colleagues who are doing similar work across the zone. And so we were able to have a conversation and open up some channels of communication between districts. And it's been really interesting over the course of the year is that we've seen more connections. More districts are just bringing 1 or 2 people together to the table to share. We've had different district partners attend each other's health champion or wellness leader days. And so just seeing that transfer of knowledge and that shared learning is really starting to take place here. And it has been taking place for a number of years, but just seeing more and more of it, especially this year. Ellen, I'll turn it back to you to talk a bit more about joint projects.
Thanks. So yeah, moving beyond that kind of networking, sharing those collaborative networks that exist, we're also seeing a lot more examples of school districts working together on joint projects when they do identify mutual priorities. So just wanted to share a few examples of this work. We have seen districts organize joint student leadership conferences or events. So one example this past November in Southern Alberta, 5 school districts in that area, along with support from the Southern Alberta Professional Development Consortium, organized a student leadership conference with the theme of You First, Leading Yourself to Better Lead Others. This conference had a huge attendance, so over 600 students from 30 schools were able to make it there. And there were student-led breakout sessions focused on a variety of topics like dimensions of wellness, practices associated with exemplary leadership, etc. So a good opportunity to do that kind of on a broader scale and expose students to maybe perspectives they wouldn't hear otherwise. We've also seen school districts work together on shared resources related to priority topics in their area. So one example where Alberta Health Services was involved as well in working with both Edmonton Catholic and public school boards, as well as the Canadian Mental Health Association and the Hope Foundation, was in developing the elementary mental health toolkit that's now available for province-wide use on the Alberta Health Services website. So I think this is a really great approach to developing resources, both to ensure that it's meeting the needs in schools and schools authorities, and from an Alberta Health Services perspective, it's really important to have that input on the ground in the development of the resource. So we really value that type of contribution from school authorities, and I think the more the better. So a good opportunity for cross-district collaboration as well. Another example that I thought I'd share is kind of related to working together in the same community to work with partners that are shared. So this example that I want to share is one of what's called the Feeding Kids in Schools Coalition within Calgary. So this group brings together the public and Catholic school boards, as well as a number of community organizations who supply meals, snacks, and foods to schools. So groups like the Food Bank, Meals on Wheels, Breakfast Clubs of Canada, those types of programs, as well as our Alberta Health Services staff. The coalition meets a few times a year, and what they work on is coordinating the nutrition supports that are available to Calgary schools. So really trying to reduce duplication of the different offerings and supports that these different programs provide, and streamlining communication between the food providers, school districts, and then schools. So an example of a project that I think really makes sure that schools understand what's available to them and are able to access the type of support that's most appropriate. So those are a couple of examples of joint projects. Another, I guess, it could be called a project as well. So my next slide is around professional learning. So this, I think, is definitely one of the most common areas where we see cross-district collaboration. There's a lot of value, I think, in offering these joint learning opportunities in the area of health and wellness, particularly. In terms of regional health champion workshops, we've seen a few examples of cross-district collaboration here. One is the Moving and Choosing Network in the southeast part of Alberta has done these annually for they're going on their 8th year this year. So they have 4 school authorities involved from the Medicine Hat and Brooks region who are involved in planning this Health Champion workshop. This year's session is going to focus on recess, and they are tapping into the funding available from the Alberta Healthy School Community Wellness Fund as well, and are able to make it a bit of a broader event this year than it's been in the past. In the area of professional learning, I think working across districts can also provide examples or opportunities to share the costs associated with training and speakers. And Lorna, you gave an example of that already with the Jody Carrington work at your regional sharing meeting. A couple other examples, Edmonton Public School Board and Edmonton Catholic Schools worked together last year to bring in Dean Dudley, who's an expert on physical literacy, and he spoke at several professional learning events in that area. We've also seen Horizon School Division and Holy Spirit Catholic School Division in the South working together, again, to bring in Jody Carrington speak to their health champions at a joint PD day. May have been a bit more pricey because I think theirs was more recent than yours, Lorna. And then that area in the South are following up with that same group of staff from both districts with a collaborative book study for health champions. So kind of an innovative way to continue that learning on a more ongoing basis. And again, that's funded by the Wellness Fund, or supported with funding by the Wellness Fund too. We've also seen examples of districts working together on training opportunities for specific groups of staff. So I guess smaller groups of staff where it might be harder to offer kind of health-specific training for groups like counselors, training and support for breakfast program or food service supervisors. So looking at how those messages can be, how the resources and professional learning offerings can be used across districts for those types of staff groups as well. Okay, and I think Lorna is going to speak to the last one.
Great, thanks, Ellen. Just a bit about knowledge transfer. Because of the way we're structured within Alberta Health Services, we have a built-in network of provincial contacts who are all working in the same realm. And collaboratively, we can identify school authorities who are working on similar priorities and can connect them to promote sharing and learning from one another. And I think that's something that Colleen and Jasmine are also doing, but we work really closely with Colleen and Jasmine as well on our teams. So one area where we've done some knowledge transfer is related to learnings around policy development and implementation. And it's been an interesting journey as school districts worked on policy and how to implement them. And I think something that we were able to offer at that time and continue to offer are just how to navigate some of the hot spots around policy. For example, and I try not to laugh anymore about why it is that we work with districts to really ensure that it's okay to build coffee into your policy for staff. And I think it was over 10 years ago where some of the first nutrition policies were coming out, and just the nutrition guidelines don't include coffee for children and youth, but navigating that to explain, but coffee is okay for adults, and you don't need to take coffee out of your staff rooms. And in fact, it's some of the work we're doing right now is really coffee is an important part of how you build connections in staff. So some key learnings that we've been able to help districts navigate as they move into and out of the policy realm. Another area where we've had lots of knowledge transfer in Central Alberta is in relationship to staff wellness. We've had a couple of districts do some pretty significant surveys, and they've been so generous in sharing those survey questions and how they developed their surveys. And now districts are starting to share, as they've tabulated their results and they're developing strategies, they've been really generous again, sharing across boundaries what they are doing to address staff wellness. We've had lots of sharing conversations, and we know that they are a great platform for knowledge exchange. At Shaping the Future, if you've been to Shaping the Future, there's a session titled Wisdom in the Room. I believe it's been built into the conference as a pre-conference session for about 5 years now. The facilitated conversation brings together representatives from a variety of schools and districts across the province to discuss key priority areas, share successes, and brainstorm strategies to common barriers. A different way to gather and share has been through virtual connections within and across districts. I mentioned earlier that we've hosted a wellness conversation last fall for the Zone 4 wellness leaders, but we've also had within a district, an entire district come together virtually where geography doesn't easily permit sharing in person. We've done that virtually as well. And I've said before too, I'm really excited about the number of conversations that were sparked at our Zone 4 virtual conversation last fall. We've received lots of great feedback about these different types of sharing and information learning opportunities. I think they've helped broaden networks and support for those that are championed at a district level to really move this work forward. At this point, we'd like to open the floor, and if there's anyone that would like to share an example of how they've been doing some cross-jurisdictional collaboration, we'd love to hear about it. And we saw there was a good number of people on the line that have had this experience. So if you'd like to throw it in the text box, or if you'd like to unmute your microphone, we'd love for you to share an example.
So there is a poll open at the top. Unfortunately, we can't unmute everybody's microphone, but if you just wanted to type a short answer, we'll give you a couple seconds to do so.
Yeah, those are some good additional examples. The HAS events for sure, those building student leadership and working together on specific initiatives. Yeah, I think the joint presentations, I always think those are really great. I always prioritize attending those sessions when I'm at conferences as well.
So I will leave this poll open until the end of the presentation before we do the evaluation. So if you wanted to contribute as we go along, you're more than welcome to.
Thanks. Yeah, it'll be good to have even some more examples to add to our library.
Yeah, and I just love, there was one in here, Ellen, and I'd love for the person to tell us where this is taking place. And it bumped. Oh, we host a day for local district wellness leaders from up to 12 different school jurisdictions to come
that's
together.
Edmonton.
Is it Edmonton?
I know
Oh, okay.
Matt's typing. Oh yeah, I guess people can type in the chat box, but
That's right. Hey, thanks, Matt, for the great idea. Awesome.
Yeah, it's an awesome event. You can connect with Matt. Well, thank you for those examples. Okay, before we wrap up, I just wanted to highlight a few of the ways we support cross-district collaboration specifically. This kind of builds on the roles that Lorna talked about earlier, and kind of that role in knowledge translation and being that connector. But we are able to play that coordinating role in bringing together school authority representatives who we kind of connect with individually via the network we have established in our organization. And we also, there's the proximity piece. I think that's a natural link to make, but also bringing together those learnings from school authorities who may not be close there, but are connected through our teams. So it is really common for our staff to reach out internally within our network to identify strategies or ask questions about, my school district is, I'm trying to think of an example. Looking for how have other school districts approached staff wellness. They'll send that out and we'll get a bunch of ideas back and make connections that way. When working on specific projects, we're also able to identify other community or provincial partners who can add value and help make those connections. So bringing those outside partners into the cross-district work as well. We're also happy to be involved in planning cross-district initiatives and sit on planning and steering committees, and we do that regularly. In the context of events or projects with more of a learning focus, we can often provide professional learning sessions or identify others who may be able to offer that depending on what the topic area is. Yeah, and so we're generally kind of playing that connection role and happy to be involved if it's kind of focused on applying comprehensive school health at that cross-district level, as it does really sharing those successes, I think, is one of those things we hear that everyone finds value in when we do sessions like Wisdom in the Room or virtual sharing. The I guess formalized mechanism to do that isn't always that clear, but if you have a question and you want to reach out to other districts but you're not sure where to start, I think just ask someone from AHS, ask your designated health promotion facilitator, and we can do some of that work for sure. So in terms of accessing support, just on my next slide here, we do have a website there, ahs.ca/csh, where you can find more information about the supports our teams offer, as well as a variety of resources related to comprehensive school health. So we do have these available in French and English, a lot of content related to the comprehensive school health approach itself and tools for supporting implementation. We also have our provincial teacher resource list that provides recommended teaching supports across all of the health topic areas that are covered within Alberta Health Services, as well as some supplementary information. So save you from having to filter through Google results if you visit this list. And then we also have parent newsletters that we have 10, like one per month of the school year, both for elementary audiences and then junior and senior high audiences as well, the parents of those students. And then if you do want to figure out who the contact is available to support your school or your school authority, you can just reach out to this email, and that generally comes into our team, and then we make sure it's distributed to the right staff member who will follow up. So that's, I think, what we wanted to share today. Thank you all for your attention, and I just wanted to say thank you, Colleen and Jasmine, for providing the platform to share this, and also more broadly to the Alberta Healthy School Community Wellness Fund for the funding to support this work. I think we'll really see it grow in the next few years, and hopefully have a lot more ideas and strategies to share after, once this funding is evolved and continued. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies, for the information and examples you've provided. We would also like to extend our gratitude to everyone else in attendance today. This webinar will be available on our website for viewing and sharing to your network shortly. Our next webinar, titled The Youth Vaping Crisis, hosted by Les Hagan, Executive Director of Action on Smoking and Health, will be April 11th at noon. You will not need to register. Just simply access bit.ly/AHSCWF webinar, same link as today, the day of the session. Thank you again, and if you wouldn't mind participating in a short evaluation, it would really help us out for future sessions.